kind of a short version because it can get pretty lengthy. The product, the serotonin was discovered by a Dr. Negus. He and his wife were doing research on field mice, voles, and wanted to know why they only bred at a certain period of time. They were able to isolate their feed, which was basically new grown grass, and that would stimulate the breeding cycle in the animals. There was an attempt made to make it commercially viable. It didn't work. Their volume and concentration were difficult to control. So at that point, it just went on a shelf for almost 20 years. And another group of people discovered the research and wanted to see if they could make it commercially viable. That's when I got involved and I invested in the company. And we actually developed a product. The problem was is because of the concentrations and volume, it took 16 double-aught capsules 3 times a day to get even a minimal effect. And there was some attempts made to market it that way. That wasn't going well. It wasn't the cash cow that they'd expected it to be. I still had high hopes for it, so I bought the other guys out. I went from being a minor stockholder to basically owning the company, along with a couple of other minor stockholders that came on board with me. At that point, we started working on concentration and volume. And this is something that I'll add in now, we started using organic growing methods. We didn't try to certify organic, but since we were using non-GMO seed and organic seed, we used organic growing methods, and we were able to take the concentration of the compounds from about 25 parts per million to 1,800 parts per million. So we felt we had a viable product then. We continued doing the same thing. We would dry the plants, chop them up, and put them in double-aught capsules, and we reduced the number that people had to take. I just kind of serendipitously found out that I could extract those compounds. In fact, it's a unique and quite expensive extraction process because most extraction processes done commercially now are hydrocarbon extracts. They either use alcohol or propane. The problem with those is they leave free methyl radicals, which are carcinogenic in the compound. So we had to develop one that doesn't have any toxicity in it, no carcinogens, none of that. Not only extracted 6-MBOA, which was a polyphenol, it extracted about 15 or 16 other polyphenols that work in unison with the 6-MBOA to give this broad-ranging effect that we're seeing now. So the 6-MBOA was looked at as stimulating the estrus cycle or the breeding cycle, and all of these others that have come in, just like I said, kind of serendipitously through discovery, have added to all of the serotonin pathways being touched. That took a period of about 6 years for us to develop that. And in doing so, we were able to get very high concentrations of the compounds and sufficient volume to make it commercially viable. We initially, the extract comes out is this thick, black, tarry, gelatinous mass that smells foul and tastes worse. We started cutting that with sunflower seed initially, eventually went to grapeseed oil and flavored it with a peppermint flavoring. And so it was in an oil base delivered through an eyedropper, and people would take 4 or 5 drops under the tongue. And we got pretty good compliance that way. It was still, because we had to use so much of it in the compounds, it was still prohibitive price-wise. So I started looking at other ways to deliver the product, and I found that I could actually suspend it in water by removing the impurities in basically a purified water. It still has impurities in it, but we would remove that impurity, and we had a few seconds to insert our compounds in there. So that's what we did. We ended up having a much less expensive product, much higher efficacy, because the absorption rate was about 250,000 times what it was with the oil, and the efficacy went up. We still had non-GMO, organically grown, a pure product. When we have these products tested, and incidentally, we test product. We're testing product right now that is 12 years old, from 2006. It still will not grow any bacteria. It won't grow any spores, any fungi. It has no heavy metals in it at all. And the lab basically says it's the purest stuff they've ever seen. It just is remarkable in what it does. And so now we deliver it in this spray. You can spray it under the tongue or really anywhere in the mouth where the mucosa tissue is. And you get that wonderful absorption throughout the mucosa, and it goes right into the system. The benefit has been enormous for people. So that's basically the story. That whole process right there was probably 12 years to get us to that point. And once we were to that point, then we started looking at ways to market it, and of course met you, and we've proceeded from there. But it's been a long road. It's been a very difficult road. It's been a costly road, but we feel like we have something that is truly life-changing for many, many people. Well, we micronize the polyphenols, and we combine them in a formulation with water, and it's very stable. There's some things in here that are proprietary that I really can't divulge, but the compounds are stable. They have an unlimited shelf life. They don't lose potency over a period of time. If people buy them, they'll notice that there's no expiration date, like, good for 1 year, good for, all of that. These actually are labeled good for 1 year after opening. And it's basically geared to be a 1 month supply. So the technology is that it's micronized. It's very small particles, almost down to the atom. And the water molecules that we use are all very uniform. The compounds are captivated within the water molecules so that they don't disperse out, they won't settle out. They work more like for those who understand it, they work more like a colloidal suspension. They're just in there forever. And the absorption rate, because, water is just about the most absorptive thing on the planet, and these compounds go right along with it when they're absorbed. Key ingredients. Well, these are derived from monocot plants. The monocotyledons are a descriptor used for certain plants and the way they breed. The monocot family represents all the cereal grains, the onion, leek, garlic family, 20,000 orchids, bananas, bamboo, and then there's another group of plants called dicots, or dicotyledonous plants, and they are typically the woody stemmed plants, trees, shrubbery, bushes. A lot of the things in your garden are dicots. A lot of the flowers are dicots. But these are all monocots. The current process we are using we're extracting from Zea maize, which is a variety of corn. And a lot of people get alarmed that we're using corn, because corn is one of the most allergenic foods you can take. However, with the process we use, there's no allergens transferred. There's no mold or virus or anything, spores or anything that carry over. And those are all the things that are allergenic in corn. So we don't have anything that causes allergens. We've never had an allergic response. We've never had an interference with a drug. There's no addictive property to it, no habit forming, anything like that. But we can derive from any monocot, because the basic compounds that we use are all contained in the early growth of monocots. So we harvest these plants in their infancy, and we're thereby able to derive these monocots, which do not exist, or the polyphenols, which don't exist in the mature plants. You can take any cereal grain, garlic, onion, banana, bamboo, any of those, and do an extraction on them, and you will not get this family of polyphenols. They don't exist in the adult plant. They exist in the juvenile plant, and basically how they serve the juvenile plant is they are a protector of the plant against insects and mold and viruses and bacteria and things that would be detrimental to the plant when it's trying to gain maturity. But once the plants reach a certain level of maturity, these start disappearing, and there aren't any more in them as they reach adulthood. And incidentally, that very fact is the reason that we were able to get the 6 use patents on these. They're utility patents, because there's you of course couldn't get a patent on an extract of corn or wheat or rye or anything like that, because those are in common use. But it's not common use to use the juvenile plants, the babies. There's a sleep study done, and it's done according to Yale protocol. It was not done by Yale, so people need to understand that it's not under Yale's roof. But they have a sleep protocol, as does, I think, the University of Pittsburgh has one, and several other institutions have a definitive sleep protocol that they use. The Yale protocol is part subjective, where it's a questionnaire for the participants, and part of it is electronically monitored, where it's totally objective in how their bodies are responding to the compounds. So we do have that was a double-blind control study, and that was done. There's another 20,000 pages of research done on this around the world. Those are the supportive documents that we used in obtaining our patents. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to. The one thing we do caution people is, work with your physician before you try to go off of your prescription drugs. We don't want you experimenting and causing any problems. There's never been any evidence anywhere that it interferes with a drug. Even if you're taking SSRIs, there's never been any evidence that it interferes with them. Storage methods for Adapt are very easy. You can just put it on a shelf. It's in a light shielded bottle, so you don't have to worry about UV light. You don't have to worry about refrigeration or keeping it warm. It can, if it freezes, the only danger of it freezing is that it might mess up the spray mechanism. But there's no restrictions on how you store it. Technically, in a marketing sense, it probably would be classified as a supplement, but the question would then arise, what are you supplementing? It's not a supplement in the sense that a vitamin or a mineral or something like that is, because it doesn't supplement serotonin. The body responds to taking this by either producing more or producing less serotonin. So you're not adding to the overall volume of something by taking this. It's basically an adaptogen. The body takes it and uses it the way it wants to. The simple answer is no. There's nothing else out there like it. There are other things that people take to achieve some of the things that ADAPT does. As an example, people will take melatonin, or they'll take 5-HTP. The effects of those are quite marginal, and if you delve into their labeling, you'll find out that you're not supposed to take those for any extended period of time. They're not as safe as people would tell us they are. Well, it's delivered in a spray because we found that's the most efficacious method to deliver it. We want great absorption, we don't want high volumes, and we want a wide dispersion over the mucous membrane in the mouth. So we deliver it in a spray. It's just efficient to do it that way. That's really the simple answer for that. The water is pure as we can get water. It goes through a process where actually every impurity is taken out. When you buy distilled water, there are still impurities in it because that's what the water clusters form around. With our product, the water clusters form around the polyphenols. Organic's a funny word. We are certified non-GMO. We are not certified organic, however, we grow organically. If you look at the requirements to be certified organically across the United States, there's 50 states and there's 50 different standards for organically grown. We have decided not to pursue that simply because we don't want to have to comply with what everyone does, but we grow organically. A faint minty flavor. It doesn't last long. It's just a hint of it in the mouth. If we didn't flavor it, it would just taste like water. You can do anything you want with ADAPT and how you want to spray it. It adapts, that's a good name for it. It adapts well to spray it on food or put it in your water. That seems to me like a great deal of difficulty to go to get the benefits from it when you can just spray it in your mouth for a few sprays. Is the product safe for children? The short answer is yes. There's some explanation that needs to go with that, not to explain the safety and efficacy, but to explain why many products retain labels that say, may not be safe in pregnancy or may not be safe for children. However they word those things. The fact is that no drug companies do studies on children or pregnant women. It's just not done. So effectively, you will not find things that have been experimented that way. The essence of what we have is that it's safe for any age. There's nothing in there that would cause a problem. It's basically a food. We've extracted compounds that are common in a food, and with the level of dosages that are given, there should never be a problem with that. Is the product safe for animals? Absolutely. Most of the testing that has ever been done with this product, most of the research that has ever been done with this product was originally on animals. There are extensive studies on rabbits, dogs, cats, cattle, horses. There's probably 20,000 pages of research, and most of it is on animals. Yeah, a friend of mine called me and wanted some of the product, so I sent it to him. He had a horse that had gotten tangled up in some fencing, and it just ripped open the chest of the horse. And he wanted to see if it would do any good, because he could not get near the horse to give it any medication. The horse would just, spooked at everything, so he couldn't even get it out of the field. So I sent him some of the spray, the serotonin spray. He was able to rope the horse and tether it, and just spray the serotonin on the open wounds, and the horse calmed down. And then he could dress the wounds.
Wow.
So those kind of things are fun anecdotes. And we have a lot of those. People have used this in remarkable ways. We had a veterinarian back in Cincinnati, Ohio, that had, she specializes in treating high anxiety dogs. And her typical customer, patient, or whatever, dogs, is in a thunder jacket. And that evidently is a device used to embrace the dog and keep it calm and things like that. And she treats her dogs with serotonin now, and they don't have to wear thunder jackets. Their anxiety level's way down. The Adapt raw product is all produced locally. We control it from seed to shelf, and we can grow anywhere at any time in the world and produce it anywhere, anytime in the world. We use standard good manufacturing processes throughout. And like I said, we control everything from seed to shelf. Serotonin is a trademarked name for a family of compounds that are polyphenols, the main one being 6-MBOA. And if you look up 6-MBOA on the internet, it will give you the full chemical name, and I'll leave it up to you to try to pronounce it. So, we've never had any side effects reported. There shouldn't be, but we've never had any reported. The product's been available to the general public for 3.5 to 4 years. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office lists all the patents. The patents belong to Serotonin Research and Technologies. And you can bring those up on the website for the patent office, and each of those patents will give the supportive documentation in the extract. So it's all available, it's public information. And then whatever information is published on the Adapt website. There are. We have one peer-reviewed research on the research that's been done that is peer-reviewed is the Yale protocol sleep study. What I caution everyone to do with peer-reviewed research is that typically when a research paper is requested or a project is requested, it depends. The research is done looking for a specific effect, a specific outcome. And that's why most research is done by the company requesting the research. That's the research they want, that's the result they want. Most of the research that we have has been done throughout the world Like I said, the supporting documents are on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website in the extracts. And that research was, none of that research that is available in the patents was promoted, authorized, paid for, or instigated by Serotonin Research and Technologies. The only research that we've ever done has been on the sleep study. We did want that done, so we asked for a study to be done on that. But all the other supporting documentation and research has been done outside of us, all by independent third parties. It's not our company that's done it. Absolutely. That option is always there. It's never been offered to a pharmaceutical company. Several pharmaceutical companies have asked for information on it, and I've just always told them that I'm not interested in pursuing that. My feeling is that if it were to become a pharmaceutical, it would be priced out of the reach of most people. And this way we can keep it in a market at a reasonable price and give a wider scope of use. And it would also restrict who could use it, and I don't want that either. It would be up to the doctor's discretion to say who gets the benefit of this drug. Let me expand on that thing a little bit on the pharmaceutical. There's a huge difference in the way pharmaceutical drugs are developed and the way we've developed this. There's a lot of proprietary information that we have come across that either pharmaceutical companies don't know, or they don't quite understand, or they have chosen to ignore. And it is those issues that keep me from dealing with a pharmaceutical. I would rather keep it in this arena. I think it's much better. We probably don't even know all the things that it could be applied to, but there's a lot of promise in this simply because of the technology that can be applied to other plants. You know, what other plants are out there that have a very specific benefit that might apply well to this kind of technology? I don't know.